the Thousand Suns. You may notice that this walking sandcastle here looks a little bit different. I painted this marine with the tabletop-ready non-metallic metal approach and dry brushed the warp out of him. This is a very beginner-friendly tutorial as it helps to understand where to place the highlights, since this technique is doing it for you. After we loaded the wet palette, we slightly moisten up the brush and start giving the entire marine a heavy dry brushing with dark rust. We don't really need to worry about the parts that we are going to paint blue, we just make sure we have a good and solid dry brushed marine in the end. After we are done with dark rust, we don't really need to rinse the brush, we just go on with burn red and repeat the process. And then with a 50-50 mix of burnt red and Parasite brown, as we want to create this very warm brown or copper-like color. This really functions as our undertone, and we are now starting building up the golden color with adding more and more Parasite brown and sun yellow into the mix. With sun yellow we change our brush to a smaller one and pick out some of the more raised details, like in the chest and head area, as we want them to stand out the most. If you are new here, you could consider subscribing, as we are not that far away of being 1,000 here too. And this is for all of you watching. Thank you for tuning in and sticking around. Once that's done, we start painting the blue. And since we don't have a black undercoat anymore, most blues, like Thousand Suns or in this case Vallejo's Turqouise, should really cover with just one coat. We angle the mini in a way that the trim is working as a natural stopping point for our brush. In this way we make sure that we can paint the armor panels very neatly. We can highlight the blue with a bit of white that we carefully add into the mix. I like to wet blend here because the trim already has such harsh contrasts, so we don't really need to highlight the blue so hard to have a bit of separation here and make this paint job a little more cleaner. And I was surprised how fast this was, because with Thousand Suns it's always a pick your poison, you rather have to paint the trim or the blue very neatly, and with this approach we don't really need to care for the gold and can focus on the blue. And we are still painting these dudes in a time frame I would consider as very much achievable and fast. It took me around 70 minutes for this one. If you enjoy this content, I would like to make you aware of my Patreon, as I think I have quite unique and good benefits, like giveaways, voting power and shoutouts. And I also offer one-on-one painting advices. For a mini like this, it is especially important to take a bit more time for his main body armor, since he stands in such a way that his chest is very exposed and draws a lot of attention. We just once again focus on the head and chest area and paint a very slim highlight on the leg to pull this paint job a bit together. Fixing some mistakes with dark rust and burnt red. We are base coating the fabrics, and if your marine has one, the pages of the books with a mix of dark rust and Elfic flesh. Adding more and more whites into the mix. And we are painting the highlights, assuming the light source would come from an angle like this. I want these fabrics to look a little like papyrus, as I think this fits the Thousand Suns very well, so I aim for a beige-like white. Or I guess you can say an off-white. And now we are highlighting the pouches with a mix of burnt red and Elfic flesh. The key part for painting a non-metallic metal approach like this is not to highlight everything. We want to have contrast, as this really sells the effect. So we only highlight key points of the mini, like the most raised details on the shoulder armor or the faceplate. And by the way, if you want to make the trim look a little less grimy, you can carefully shade it with Ivoryx Earth or Reikland Flash Shade. If this was true metallic, I would not really care for parts like this, but since it isn't, we have to paint it. Painting some parts of the marine with a fiery red, wet blending some yellows and oranges in there, going brighter the closer we get to the actual source of the magic. For the eyes, we are holding the miniature as steady as we can, and first base coating the entire area around them with Gory red and just a tiny amount of hot orange for the inner lenses. Giving some finishing touches with white for parts like these chains or the nades. In the end, I do have to say I really do like this look. Let's be real here, it somehow embodies the sand image of the Thousand Suns. And it is fast enough that one could paint an entire battle group of them in this style. And with this final wisdom, I am going to say thank you for watching, and we are going to see each other in the next one.